What's going on, everyone? It's your boy, Ernest Dove. I wanted to give some updates on the entire Mets minor league system. It's another day off, which is always the saddest day of the week for me. Like Mondays aren't bad enough. You got to factor in no minor league baseball games. But I wanted to give some updates on a lot of the players, specifically some of the most talked about prospects, maybe a couple that you guys don't hear enough about unless you follow my Twitter X account because I'm the one who talks about them all the time. So I'll give a couple of names like that as well, but wanted to start with some of the, just a few prospects at every single Mets minor league level. I want to start at the top, work my way down. You know, I love the lower minors, so I'll save them for last anyway. Uh, as far as at the top, AAA, there's nowhere else to go but talk about Christian Scott. He's the guy I was hearing all kind of things about from last season when staff were extremely excited about his velo already hitting 97, 98 last year. Again, he's had a slow start to pro ball. So when he was healthy, he started to show what he could be last year as a healthy Christian Scott. Going forward, I mean, what some of the biggest things, obviously, command has been his thing since he got here. This season, the K rate is almost 13 strikeouts per nine. The walk rate is about 2 per 9. That's what he's been doing. As far as the home runs, I know that's, hey, I could have my own thoughts on that. I mean, end of the day, Christian Scott is throwing all these strikes day in, day out, every single game. Maybe some bats here and there are sitting on it, the timing. That's something maybe in player development to mix in a pitch at a different part of the count. But one of the fun little stats I saw on Fangraphs when it says what percentage of batters or runners are left on base so far this season for Christian Scott, it's at 100%. So basically, throughout the early season, no runner has scored on Christian Scott when they've been on base, which also kind of explains the weird stat. He's given up 7 home runs, he's given up 12 base hits the entire season. So that's probably why it's 100%. It's probably also why some of the hitters in the minors are trying to jump on him and try to hit one out because if they don't do that, they're not scoring. Again, I can't downplay home runs, although I've made some comments online. Even some guys like Max Scherzer are well known for throwing all kinds of strikes and giving up a lot of home runs per year. Maybe they do technically still care about it, but really important to throw a ton of strikes because you're getting a lot of outs. Guys aren't even scoring when they get on base. So you take the good with the somewhat bad on that one. And again, let's see what kind of adjustments he can make, even at the next highest level, to see what can be worked out in certain situations where maybe some hitters might be trying to tag it, time it, sit on it, hoping to get that one shot before the rest of the at bat or the game pretty much is over. He seems to have had multiple games with only giving up 1 or 2 hits, which that 1 or 2 hits is probably a home run. It's the only things he's allowed through most of the season. The other top prospect that everyone has thoughts on is Luisangel Acuna. Again, it does seem like ever since Acuna came to the Mets organization, some of the power seems to have gone away. It's been very interesting, and even this season, the stolen bases are still good, so he's getting on base. He's still stealing bases. It looks like he's pulling the ball more this season for the Mets organization. It also looks like the line drive rate is down and the ground ball rate is up. So again, it's kind of like a give and take. We're doing this probably by the week at this point. I even mentioned on social media that even some of the highlight videos in the last week or two are about home runs, high exit velocity, and harder hits by Acuna. So again, early scheme of things. Again, the weather I heard because obviously I live in South Florida. I don't know what anything other than 80 feels like anymore. So it looks like the weather has been pretty bad anyway. Now I'm just giving excuses, but I want to see through the hot summer how hot Acuna can get. Because again, things might be heating up a tiny bit. In the last few games, he has a double, triple, and home run over the last 3 games. So he's kind of getting some of the exit velo. He's getting the big home run over the batter's eye that just happened recently. We want to see how things round out for Acuna, but I get it. Everyone's worried about ceiling at this point. Is he an all-star? Is he an average player? Is he even an everyday player? But probably something still to be determined going forward. But even as I was mentioning online, what would be considered a floor for Liliana Acuna? If he's considered a very much upgrade version of like Joey Wendell, that kind of sounds like a good thing. Can you have a guy who can play multiple positions? Can we get Acuna more than 3 or 4 starts in center field to go with middle infield? I like his middle infield instincts, regardless whether it's shortstop or second. So if he can mix in some center field, basically be a 3 position guy with speed, then it becomes how much contact is he going to make to be able to make it in the majors. And I just think that the floor can still be high. The ceiling, I'm just not sure until I can start seeing home runs. Maybe over the summer he'll heat up and they'll get to like the double-digit home runs, and we could kind of go from there. The other guy I wanted to talk about at the AAA level is Dom Hamill. Because again, I'm one of those people, I admit, as pro everything Mets minor leagues as I have been, some of the things I've been mentioning since last year with Dom Hamill is consistency. How consistent is he? He'll have a game going 6 innings, 1 run, 11 Ks. And then the next game, it's like 3 innings, 5 walks, 4 earned runs. I've been concerned about that. And then he starts the season with one of those outings. But over the last 3 starts, Dom Hamill, for 3 consecutive starts now heading into this latest off day, he's pitched at least 5 innings, and he's only allowed 2 earned runs or less. And the walks have been a minimum of 3 walks per outing over the last 3 starts. And again, 5 innings, 3 walks, that's not super awesome. But for Dom Hamill, the way he dominates batters outside of the walks, he's one of those guys who looks like he's always going to have a sub 200, opponent batting average in the minors, because he's just too filthy. They're not really going to hit him enough consistently, I believe, in the minors. So I wanted to focus on if the walks can kind of stay of sorts and maybe dip a little bit below this. But again, if he gives you 5 innings a night, giving up 2 earned runs or less, probably because of the walks being between 0 and 3 every outing, that's where you're going to see dominant Dom Hamill every single outing for the rest of the season. So with that, if he can maintain that form of consistency with the command being a little bit better, he's going to look like another high-ish ceiling, very high floor guy who could be a starter in the major leagues. Heading into Double-A, almost another version of Dom of sorts, different stuff, is Blade Tidwell. Has anyone noticed that Blade Tidwell has been consistent all year? Because I was worried about some of the consistency with Blade Tidwell as well last year. Here he is in every start he's had 2 earned runs or less. The most walks he's had is 3. So it's pretty much even below 3 walks a start for the other 3. And the hits always remain low with Blade Tidwell. Same with Dom Hamill. No one's really hitting Blade Tidwell in the minor leagues in the Mets organization. So for the two of them, their ceiling, their floor, their starter versus reliever, it comes down to command and location. But it's hard to argue Blade Tidwell all year. And he just went like 6 2/3 in his last outing. So he has the innings. Unlike some of the guys like Christian Scott, he only pitched about 87 innings last season. I don't know how long he's going, but Tidwell has the innings. Dom has the innings. Does that mean one of these guys can get shot up all the way to the majors this season? It's going to be interesting to see what Dom Hamill can do. We know Scott is probably getting called up, but it also depends on how much longer he could even go. If they're going to start capping his innings, maybe see how often per week he's going to pitch through the summer in AAA. Maybe they lower it. Maybe they skip him here and there quietly. I'm just curious to see what they do. I don't want it to be like the Marlins and some other organizations that are literally bringing a guy up, he does well, and then they bring him back to the minors to go back to 4 innings. That would be kind of rough. I don't want to see that with a high-level guy like Christian Scott in the Mets organization, but we'll see. The other guy, obviously, is he a top prospect again? Alex Ramirez. I got to state the facts as well. The walk rate is still low. The K rate is still high. I've mentioned the BA, BIP. He's getting a lot of it in his favor recently. But the 323, 324 batting average is something I was praying for something like this. They say they're praying for days like this. Alex Ramirez is having one of those repeat Ahmed Rosario type seasons at a level. It's one of those things that Ahmed Rosario did before he blew up again, almost a top 3 prospect, 1 to 3 in Major League Baseball before he got called up. He was having one of those repeat level situations where he exploded. So that's why I'm hoping to see that type of thing from Alex Ramirez. Can he go from here and just not stop? Because he was already doing well in spring and he's carried it over so far into this season. And I knew he was a guy who had great foot speed, but he's a guy who has 11 stolen bases in 19 games. So the hustle is obviously there. The hit tool has been working. Now, how are things going to balance out between the BABIP along with the walk rate and K rate? That's another thing to wait through over the summer. Even for things like promotions, I don't know if he'll be even promoted at all to AAA this year. Again, he's only 21 years old, despite being in the organization for like a million years. So I'm curious, Alex Ramirez, can he basically maintain a 300 batting average all year in AA? Which again, AA is the show me level. So regardless of what you want to consider the luck, the BABIP, walk rate, K rate, he's been getting on base and he's stealing bases. This is pretty exciting for an outfielder that he was the top outfield prospect a year or two ago. Things started to die out. Now we were putting Gilbert and even Jet Williams ahead of him, and Jet don't even play the outfield every day. So it's curious to see, does Alex Ramirez go all the way back up again? For the what have you done for me lately crowd, I mean, Gilbert's not even around right now. Don't know when he's coming back. I mean, do you like, for the sake of week to week playing like I'm an ESPN or a MLB website ranking systems, do we now rank Alex Ramirez back to number 1 as an outfield prospect? It's kind of exciting and fun to see the progress. But before I get into my own hype, I want to see the walk rate, K rate for another month or two and see how things eventually balance out. I also want to see if the home runs go up. I want to see other things that come into play here for Alex Ramirez. The other guy, more of a wild card guy. I feel like I'm one of the few people who talks about him, and I'm going to keep doing it until he hopefully reaches the majors. Wilkin Ramos. Wilkin Ramos, right-handed pitcher in AA this year. And I know I'm going to jinx it. I'm sorry, but he hasn't allowed a run this season. So, and that's not even why I'm excited about Wilkin Ramos, who two teammates told me last year he's got a major league arm as far as I'm concerned. So again, it's not just Dove speaking. I'd rather listen to another professional athlete and a fellow pitcher who says Wilkin Ramos, major leaguer. It's the type of arm he has. He throws filth. It moves everywhere. So I think the concern was command. Like, oh no, it's one of those guys. He's going to flame out with bad command. Again, knock on wood, no runs, but more importantly than the runs, 9 2/3 innings, he's allowed 1 walk this season in his appearances. For me, that is incredible because Wilkin Ramos with command, I see him as being a major league pitcher, major league reliever. I can't compare stuff. I can't do that anyway. But trying to use random Mets references, even current, we may even have another version of Deadneil Nunez of sorts. I don't think he throws as hard as Deadneil, but some of those movement pitchers, I think Wilkin Ramos can be a guy like that. Maybe even consider him a Reed Garrett, who all of a sudden now is our ace in the hole, our extra Edwin Diaz or Seth Lugo at his prime 2-inning guy, Reed Garrett. I think, Wilkin Ramos at his absolute best with command could be one of those filthy guys who can eat an inning or two and get a lot of outs. So again, please keep an eye on him. Maybe I'm wrong. You could give me the receipts later. I just think Wilkin Ramos is a major league pitcher. Don't know how long. Don't care. I think his stuff plays in the major leagues. Now going down into high A, I got to talk about Nolan McLean, the pitcher. As far as the hitter, we know the power is there. We've seen it. It's tough for me to argue, can he hit all the way up AA, AAA? I want to hold off on that. I'm more interested in the pitching because I'm talking to people in the Mets organization that said, even from last summer, the end of last summer, ended almost into the off season, the quote that I got was, buy stock in Nolan McLean, the pitcher. So that's what I've been doing coming into this season. Things were starting slow with him, and they may be slow for the entire year. But again, I was very interested to see that they decided to start Nolan McLean. And it looks like that's the plan for the whole season. They want him to eat innings as a starting pitcher in the rotation while also hitting throughout the week as well. That's my understanding for the entire season. So I'm excited about it. And I'm also excited about the command. It looks like the command is starting to look good now as he has his outings. So I'm curious what happens with Nolan McLean, the pitcher, if he can maintain this command and he can start eating these 2 to 4 innings and outing. I'm really excited to see what the numbers could be at the end of the year. Because again, with everything going on, I'm being told even this year, stud, buy stock in McLean, real deal. Like those are the quotes I'm getting on Nolan McLean. So I'm going to jump on it. It's not just me hyping him, it's people in the Mets organization hyping him. So don't believe me again, believe them. Those are the experts, those are the paid professionals. I'm just the guy blurting out about it here on my little account. So again, buy some stock in Nolan McLean. The other guy I want to talk about as well is my favorite from last year, Felipe De La Cruz. He's the lefty that can hit mid-90s, has an insane breaking ball, love his fastball, and the issue is command. That's what I've been worried about from day one. Everyone's been worried about it. And here he is now starting this year. He's had some good outings, a couple of bad outings. The main thing right now is he has a professional career low walk rate. Professional career low walk rate. That's the most exciting thing for me for this first month of the season for Felipe De La Cruz. Almost throw out the numbers. I really don't care. Although if you want to get fancy with it and I can try to defend him the best that I can, the opponent's BIP, whatever, is 347. That sounds pretty high. It looks like there's been a lot of maybe luck, but again, a lot of balls are dropping in the first month against Felipe De La Cruz while his walk rate is low. So he's throwing more strikes, more balls are coming in. Even his K rate is down a tad. And I'm wondering if the K rate has dropped a little bit because of the focus possibly on command. And you're going to take that balance with a guy like this who has stuff like this because it could balance out in his favor towards the end of the season. Maybe a few more balls get caught. We could always probably talk about defense, dimensions on certain field. I can go through this all day. That's why I'm most excited about the low walk rate. The other high ceiling guy, obviously in high A, is Brandon Sproat. Even from camp, I was told by teammates, Sproat looks ridiculous right now. They were already excited from camp. Season starts. Staff love him already. They said he's doing exactly what's being asked of him since day one. I know command is always a thing. He had like one bad outing command-wise. The rest, he's simmering down. And again, that probably goes towards the coaching. It goes towards his player development, his work ethic. And again, them saying he's doing everything that we're telling him to do. And he's being called a high ceiling guy by the Mets staff. So they love him. So I think Brandon Sproat is also going to be for real, which we kind of was hoping he would. Maybe one of those high floor guys. So for now, I'll call him more high floor, even though a Mets professional said, I love his ceiling. So I guess I'm going to debate a professional for no reason, but I just want to see it play out for the entire year, command-wise, walk rate-wise. I want to see how things pan out when he hopefully gets to maybe, 100-plus innings. And then by the end of the year, maybe Dove will be in here in the offseason, putting him in his top 10 in the rankings. I'd be happy to do that. One of the younger guys that I wanted to talk about, because, again, I love doing this as a former St. Lucie Mets guy, too, from last year, is Douglas Oriana. In high A right now, through 4 games, ERA 1.35. He's got 13 in the third innings, 18 strikeouts. Opponents are only hitting 152 against Douglas Oriana. What could be the concern? Do I have to say it? So, I mean, it is what it is. We got to see about the command and location with Douglas Oriana. Small sample size either way, but he's got 6 walks in 13 in the third innings. I want to see how things play out for him. I've heard good things about him as well from Met staff behind the scenes. The stuff they love, that's fine. But they also just like him as a person and his work ethic. One of those like quote unquote coachable guys. I'll take those any day of the week, player development wise, especially with the pitching lab, especially with coaches teaching new pitches like the cutter and the sweeper. A guy like Douglas Oriana looks like he's going to listen to everything told to him as well and have the right work ethic. So keep your eye on Douglas Oriana because I do love him. Kind of love him maybe as a reliever, maybe one of those Wilkin Ramos guys as well. Maybe one of those two, you see him in AAA, and maybe you see him quietly even by next year, the year after, you're like, who's this? And he's being called up. Remember who talked about him first, please. Now, of course, low A, or I guess I must say low A / high A, sounds like he already got promoted during the off day, is Jonah Tong. Now, it's hard to explain a guy who's doing this. He's basically putting up Edwin Diaz numbers while starting. So that's hard to overlook when he has an Edwin Diaz K rate as a starter in low A, which is probably why even at 20 years old, even at such little pro baseball experience, because Jonah Tong is one of those guys, he got drafted and then went into like that minor league witness protection program where something's going on, maybe health-wise, no one talks about it. It's hush-hush until he shows up. And I was getting the small information from Jonah Tong last spring when he was rehabbing at the start of the year, and I was hearing he was already hitting 97. He was incredible. He pitched a few innings last year, already looked dominant with a lot of walks. This year, it looks like everything is coming together quickly for Jonah Tong. So the K rate is not even worth mentioning because it's just ridiculous. So now the question is, honestly, can he maintain command in high A? I mean, it's still a jump. Low A, high A is a jump. I think double A is the show me level, but going from low A to high A is not going to be easy either. So depending on the high A bats and their plate discipline, I'm excited to see that kind of fastball and hook, how it's going to work in high A. I know the ballparks are still pretty weird. Florida State League, a lot of huge ballparks. The weather here is nice and hot, but it could be awful with no wind, depending on the games. So he might also be in good favor in Brooklyn. He might really not give up a lot of big hits. But I'm excited to see Jonah Tong now in high A and going all the way up. There's people that want to call him one of the top prospects in baseball. And again, when you put up Edwin Diaz K rates as a starter for like 4 or 5 outings, this type of talk is going to happen. My thing is, which is weird for me to be patient, but I want to see Jonah Tong maybe break 50 to 75 innings. And then after that 50 to 75 inning point, I want to start looking at the walk rate. And that's pretty much it, because I'm thinking everything else is going to be outstanding. I think for the year, the opponent batting average is probably going to remain under 200 no matter what. I don't think enough people are going to be able to hit him, especially, we'll see how the command goes. But I'm excited about Jonah Tong just as much as anyone. And again, he's a guy that I heard has insane work ethic. Like, if I were to compare it based on what people are telling me, I'll say he's a Francisco Alvarez type guy. That's the type of work ethic that he puts into it. So that's why also I'm excited. When a guy is coachable, when a guy is a great human being, and when a guy has that type of work ethic, that's how I see things like command, pitch mixing. I think he's going to do exactly what the coaches tell him to a T, and he's going to do it as often as he can. The other young guys I want to talk about, all bats in St. Lucie, is, of course, Nick Morabito, who seems like he's getting a lot of run now in the outfield. Center field all the time, almost every night in St. Lucie. I know he played a little bit of second base, moved around a little bit last year. They seem to be very intent while he's hitting of leaving him in center. I've seen him be okay in center field, saw him make a diving play. That was cool last week. Nick Morabito can hit. I don't know when he's getting called up, or if he gets called up as this video is being recorded. That's awesome. So Nick Morabito, the low A or high A guy, right now he's hitting, I think, over 380. He probably doesn't even belong in low A at this point. So I want to see how he does. Let's just talk about that in high A. Who they could use him in Brooklyn. Brooklyn batting averages is rough to look at. So you might want to insert Nick Morabito at this point, because he looks like he may not be necessary to keep him in low A much longer. I also like the young Christopher Suero. This is a 20-year-old athlete, super athlete. That's how it was described to me by staff when I started asking, hey, St. Lucie has like 3 catchers in the lineup every night. And what they do is they just move them around. And Suero's the one guy that they're also putting in left field along with first base. And when I asked, is that okay? And the response basically was, he's a super athlete. He can play anywhere. So that's why I'm excited about Christopher Suero at this age to be able to play catcher, 1B, and outfield, corner outfield, to be able to do that mix while hitting, because right now he's hitting 306 with a 918 OPS, and he looks like another exit velo guy. I know he hit a bomb last week when I was there, so he hits hard. He plays multiple positions, and right now this super athlete is hitting 300 in low A. I'm not sure. Maybe he sticks around for a while. I don't know if the Mets eventually make a decision on one of these three catchers in case they want one of them to do it full time. Or do they want to have Suero continue to be maybe even full-time outfield or remain a utility guy? It'll be pretty interesting to see because, again, he's so young still. So that's why he may be right behind Morabito at this point as far as the top hitters in low A. So I'm excited to see. And I know there's some guys in extended spring that I love, like Boston Barrow, among others. So I'm curious when one of those guys may eventually get called up, from the backfield and show up at low A. Can guys like Morabito and Suero head to Brooklyn? I think they can both succeed there. And again, you can find playing time for Morabito's hit tool. You could also find playing time for Suero because he can play out from anywhere from catcher to outfield. So it'll be cool to see him get at bats in the upper levels. The last guy I want to talk about is because I talk about him pretty much every chance I can, is Jesus Exit Velo Baez. He's my guy. He's been hitting the ball hard since last year. He's only still 19 years old. He's not even 20 years old yet. He hits ropes. So when he makes contact, a lot of the time it's 100 plus. I like his defense. He plays multiple positions around the infield. I like his arm strength, even at third base. I like his instincts at short. And again, when he has range at short, the range shows up well because of the strong arm that he shows off at third base. So when you have a 19-year-old kid who can play second, short, and third with a strong arm, good range, I think that plays. Now, how high can he go? The hit tool has been there. It's been up and down. I think he got cold recently, and then he just had a 3-hit game. So he was hot, got cold, now coming off a 3-hit game, heading into the day off. But again, the one thing you can't teach is that like Tommy Pham or Soup Campbell exit velo for a 19-year-old. So I want to see how things progress for Jesus Baez. But again, I love Jesus Baez. I love his family, by the way. So shout out to Jesus Baez mom, who's probably not going to see this video, but I love your support at the games. I'm sure he loves it. It's probably why he's hitting the ball 100 plus all the time when you're around. So shout out Jesus Baez. Shout out to everybody who follows these videos. I can try to talk about as many prospects as possible. I try to do it all the time on Twitter X. If you want me to make specific videos, trying to come up with as many different lower level guys or non-top 30 guys, just hit me up. Let me know who I can start talking about some more, and I will. But, thank you guys for listening. Till next time, I'm out.